had a question
Right.
about emotional safety. Can you describe that here?
And
What
then
does
emotional
emotional
safety.
safety look like?
Oh,
I think
okay.
a guy hears
So
that a lot of times and is like, What does that mean?"
yeah, yeah.
Hieroglyphics, baby. What is that?
Okay, so this is how I like to describe it to a woman because this starts with the woman, and I know women are like, "Oh, why does it always begin with us?" Because it's nature, darling. The biological law of association, which is written by Robert Briffault, anthropologist, he said the female always defines the association, the relationship, right? Meaning you set the tone for how a man is meant to direct that relationship. So if you don't see
Hmm.
him as a man, you will not respect him. Lesson number one to all the wives that come to me, which, it's mostly wives in inverted marriages,
Okay.
some single women who are looking to start marriage successfully, I tell them if you do not see
Nice.
males as men, then we cannot work together.
Yep.
You
Mm-hmm.
cannot, if you don't see him as male and you don't see him as a man. So the difference is if he's a man, then you can see yourself respecting him. You can see him being able to handle your emotions. That is emotional safety. So, what a lot of
Nice.
women do is they disrespect a man, and so they vomit their emotions to him. That's
Yeah.
not seeing him as a man. That's seeing him as your
Waste bin.
Female
my
Yeah.
friend?
joke is you're seeing him as your pet. You know
Yeah.
how you
Yeah.
can get your
Oh yeah.
dog and like cry to your dog, which is fine, like they're there for emotional
Some real
comfort,
talk right there.
right?
Yeah.
But I tell a woman, if you do not respect your man, you will not be emotionally open to him. And if you do not respect your man, you will be emotionally spilling to him, meaning tantrums, meaning like just being a spoiled brat of a adult girl.
God.
I
Yep.
don't call
Yeah.
her a
Yep.
woman if
No
she is
Yeah.
girl.
like that. I'm
Girl.
like, you have to
Girl.
earn womanhood,
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah.
You have to
Yes.
earn
Child.
womanhood. You do not get the label womanhood if you're behaving like an adult girl and you have not dealt with your own like personal,
Yeah.
like
I think
So
they've
I
SHIT.
they've
think
kind of
hang
they've
on.
kind of contrived what it is to be like secure. Like so these are little girls, right? So they
They
want
are
daddies.
adult little
So they want a
girls.
daddy. They want someone to take
They
care
want
of
it,
them.
which is a distortion,
Yep.
right? It's a distortion. So when you see things like, oh, like this is my daddy, did you know that that's a distortion of the lens of woman? Because a woman wants a husband, not a
Hmm.
daddy,
But
right?
I
There's an
also feel like
inversion there.
Yes.
I
Yep.
think there's a second option other than daddy. And I see this I've been a part of this shit and it sucks.
Hmm.
Is when your wife or your girlfriend treats you like a girlfriend. Like she should be gushing about her problems, some of these things that she needs to have in her own community among females. But
Hmm.
because she has no rapport with the woman that she trusts, she expects her man to step up to and be that kind of receptacle to receive all of that stuff from her.
No, please do
And
not
that's
do
like
this.
a different version of daddy because she's not expecting him to solve her problems. Like a daddy is going to say, well, here's what you do. Here's how to handle.
Yeah.
There's none of that on the back end. It's just like this gushing, expecting her to be like one of her chick friends to sit there and just listen over and over again. It's like that kind of, because it's a different relationship that a woman
It is
has
a
with her
different
peers.
relationship.
You know, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
supposed to be the same. And I see that all the time. It's like, oh, well, you're not treating me like my friends are so much open with me and they understand me and you don't. And it's like,
Because
dude, that's
those are
not
your
fair.
female friends. That's what they're there for. Like a
Yeah.
conversation around emotion is very difficult for a male brained man. And I use these terms because there are a lot of men that are not in their full, capable male aspect, right? They're
Right.
a lot of men these days, like they're very much in like
They're not men. Just
the
say it.
feminized aspect, right? So
Yeah.
if you see a man, like science says that men can only, if I have it right, like get the first 45 seconds of the phrase that you are coming to them with. So I tell women, you have to like
Oh, that's
if you're
good.
bringing
That's
an
good.
emotion to your husband, so their complaint is my husband doesn't listen to me like when I'm having strong emotions. I'm like, did you ramble on or did you say something simple like, babe, I'm sad. I need for you to understand why. And I'm like, that's all you have to do. You have to see, first of all, see him as a man. Do not see him as like your daddy. that you can have a tantrum in front of, and he will still like say, okay, like my poor little girl. Like if he's your boyfriend or your fiance or your husband, he has to be seen as a man. And a man only has a certain capacity for emotions. If you do not adjunct that with a fact, he's not going to be able to hold that conversation for you. So I tell women, what do you need and how do you feel? That's all he needs to know. You do that in 3 to 5 words and then see how he shifts. He'll
And I
shift to his problem solving mode. Like with my husband, if I have to communicate something strong about, I don't know, like the kids or whatever I'm going through, I will tell him, babe, I'm feeling really sad. Can we talk tonight? I need you to just hold me. And he will, because he's like, my poor baby, my wife, like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, like, what is wrong? He'll go into the part of his brain that will want to solve my problem because what does he want? He just wants his wife to feel safe,
Right, and going
right?
back into what you had described, the differences between the male and the female brains. A
Hmm.
female communicates and understands things implicitly. She will
Implicitly.
understand, oh, this guy, he's look at his body language, look at the way he's flushed
Yeah.
in the face. He must be angry. I'm going to go comfort my husband, right? Husband will not
Mm.
say that. A wife is going to go up. She's going to be upset. She's going to all. And she's going to expect the husband to understand her implied behavior as saying, I need a hug right now. I need you to love
Yeah.
me right now.
She
I need you to
needs to
comfort me right
ask.
now. But
Yeah.
that's like the difference between these two languages where the male and the female brain, they don't understand each other and you have to put that work in if you're going to respect the
Hmm.
sex of your wife and if you're going to respect the sex of your husband. You got to have rules for engagement. You know,
You
if you
do.
don't have rules for engagement, then what's going to happen? I see so often because women like speaking metaphorically. They like turning stuff into poetry. Something very like 2 + 2 = 4 for me is going to be like this elaborate story for a woman because they see with the peripheral, like you said, they're
They
drawing
do.
in all these different circumstances into one thing. And
Hmm.
so it's confusing for a man because he's going on wild goose chases. He'll hear one other thing and then he'll go on that thing and be like, well, so that's not the issue. Then we'll go this thing. And it's like, so that's not the issue. And he's just like, I'm going to call a
He gets
psychiatrist for
confused.
myself
Yeah.
at the end of this.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think
So
that's where a
men do
lot of
not
this.
like that state of confusion. They
Hey,
don't
they
like
want a
it.
Right. solution. But They but want what a I heard you directive. what and I they heard want a, you they want a mission and they want to accomplish that, and that's it. But what I heard you say, which
Yeah.
was so salient and so powerful,
Hmm.
something I'm starting to learn with my wife is our
Hmm.
communication is getting refined and it's becoming more wholesome and effective. Like we're really knowing what we're receiving and what we're giving. Is like
Right.
in that moment where you say, "Hey, I want you to hold me. I'm sad." You're giving your husband the solution right there.
Yeah.
And we're so happy with that. We're like, thank you. I'm not the one who
Hmm.
wants to come up with the solution.
Yeah.
I just know it's like my burden to bear. So I'm going to freak out and panic until I
The
find out
burden
what it
to
is.
bear.
Yeah.
That is
But
it.
so, yeah. And when you can say, hold me and I'm sad and that's how we get through this. I'm like so happy.
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, let's do it. We could do
Yeah.
this.
will
I think
hold
what
you.
happens
Yeah.
with the whole like rules, because there's this whole thing with like the traditional movement, like he leads everything, like he's supposed to make the first move. Nature's law, hello, the female defines the association. If you need to be held, ladies, you have to tell him, right? And then he can hold you and, you can cry on his shoulder, he can hug you. And that's defining the association. That's like a lioness saying, I'm not going to mate with you unless you prove yourself to be the better one. That's literally the same thing, but in a human context. So I
Yeah.
think, ladies, once we understand that we're communicating to somebody who has the opposite type of brain, that's how I try to not be all flowery and
Yeah.
describe it to women, right? I'm like, just understand that when you bring yourself into his territory, and again, this word triggers so many women, I'm like, when you want to bring a man to a place where you are emotionally safe, you're actually asking for permission to be in his territory, right? Because you need his provision, you need his protection. Emotional holding is still protection and provision,
That's
right?
exactly what it is. That's what it
That's
is.
exactly what it is. So he has to know that that is what he gets to provide. Baby, I need a hug. I'm going to have some strong feelings. I'm going to cry. Can you not storm out of the room
Yeah.
when I need to do that? My husband, that changed so much in our dynamic with my husband because I asked for it. And so it kind of like blows the cover on these like black and white rules about he leads, he leads. I'm like, he will lead once you define what you need,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Very
right?
we
good.
don't. We
Very-
can't.
say
we're
that
not-
again.
Yeah.
Say that one more time.
Yeah.
He can only lead when you define what you need.
That's right.
Ladies, same in courtship. So in courtship, we have this principle called the hanky drop. That's from Victorian culture, actually longer than that, chivalrous culture, where maidens, they'd have a hanky, they'd drop it, and then the gentleman, would take that as a cue to, oh, pick up her hanky. That means she is available for courtship.
Wow.
That is nature's law, ladies. You define it. You actually lead in that sense,
Yeah.
right? You set the tone so that he can set the terms. That's not my quote. That is by a powerful essayist named Gillian Pothier. You set the tone. You don't do like the actions, but you set the tone. You drop your hanky.
Make yourself available.
You smile. You show him that you're pleased with him.
Yeah.
You give him a compliment, and then after that he's like, well, what else can I do to win her, right? That is a woman's, that is probably like where she leads, and only where she leads, so that he can set all of the terms. Remember, ladies, if there are ladies watching this, right, you don't like his actions, you change yours first. You change yours first, because that's just how male and female are created. They're created to respond to us.